What really happened in the moments after Jesus breathed his last? Most people know about the cross, the nails, and the suffering. But very few know what happened immediately afterward. Why did the bright afternoon sky suddenly turn black? Why did the earth begin to shake? And why did the curtain inside God's temple tear apart on its own? These were not ordinary events. They were signs that changed history forever. Stay until the end as we uncover 5 extraordinary miracles that followed the death of Jesus. You're watching Jesus Tell Tales. Let's travel back nearly 2,000 years to Jerusalem. It is Passover, and the city is overflowing with pilgrims. Merchants crowd the streets, priests continue their work inside the temple, and Roman soldiers patrol every corner. Outside the city walls, on a hill called Golgotha, 3 crosses stand beneath the afternoon sun. On the center cross hangs Jesus of Nazareth. For 3 years, people had watched him heal the sick, give sight to the blind, calm storms, and even raise the dead. Many believed he was the promised Messiah. Yet now he hung on a cross while some mocked him, others wept, and many stood in silence, unable to understand how this could happen. As the hours passed, Jesus endured unbearable pain. His disciples had fled. His mother watched with a broken heart. The Roman soldiers carried out their orders, unaware that they were witnessing the greatest turning point in human history. Then everything changed. It was noon, when the sun should have been shining at its brightest. Instead, darkness suddenly covered the entire land. This was no passing storm and no ordinary eclipse. It happened instantly and lasted for nearly 3 hours. Fear spread across Jerusalem. Conversation stopped. Parents held their children close as people searched the sky for answers. There was no natural explanation. Passover always occurred during a full moon, making a solar eclipse impossible. Everyone who understood the heavens knew they were witnessing something beyond nature. Centuries earlier, the prophet Amos had declared that God would make the sun go down at noon and darken the earth in broad daylight. That ancient prophecy was unfolding before their eyes. As darkness covered the land, Jesus bore the weight of humanity's sin. Then, after 3 long hours, he cried out with a loud voice and gave up his spirit. The very moment he died, the ground began to shake. What started as a slight tremor quickly became a violent earthquake. Rocks split apart. Buildings trembled. People struggled to keep their footing as fear swept through the city. It was as if creation itself was mourning the death of its creator. But the greatest shock was still inside the temple. Hidden behind its walls hung the massive veil that separated the Holy of Holies from everyone else. For generations, it had stood as the barrier between sinful people and the presence of God. No ordinary person was ever allowed beyond it. Then, at the exact moment Jesus died, the impossible happened. The enormous veil tore completely in two. Not from the bottom, where human hands could reach, but from the very top. All the way to the bottom. The priests stood frozen in disbelief. The barrier that had stood for centuries had vanished in a single moment. But the darkness, the earthquake, and the torn veil were only the beginning. As the earth continued to tremble, every eye turned toward the man hanging on the center cross. Among those standing nearby was a Roman centurion, a soldier who had overseen countless executions. Death was nothing new to him. He had seen criminals beg for mercy, curse their fate, and fight until their final breath. But Jesus was different. Even while suffering unimaginable pain, he had prayed for those who crucified him. He had shown compassion instead of hatred and peace instead of fear. Then came the darkness. The earthquake. The torn rocks. One miracle after another unfolded before the centurion's eyes. In that moment, something changed inside him. Matthew's Gospel tells us that when the centurion saw the earthquake and everything that had happened, he was filled with fear and declared, "Surely this was the Son of God." Think about how remarkable those words were. They did not come from one of Jesus' disciples. They did not come from a priest or a prophet. They came from a Roman officer who had just taken part in his execution. The very man assigned to oversee Jesus' death became one of the first people to publicly acknowledge who he truly was. As evening approached, Jesus' body was carefully taken down from the cross. Joseph of Arimathea, a respected member of the Jewish council and a secret follower of Jesus, courageously asked Pontius Pilate for permission to bury him. Alongside him came Nicodemus, the Pharisee who had once visited Jesus in secret during the night. Together they wrapped his body in clean linen cloth and placed him inside a brand new tomb carved into solid rock. A massive stone was rolled across the entrance, sealing it shut. To everyone watching, the story appeared to be over. But the religious leaders remembered something that many others had forgotten. Jesus had repeatedly said that he would rise again on the 3rd day. Afraid that his disciples might steal the body, the chief priests went to Pilate and requested extra security. Roman guards were stationed outside the tomb, and the stone was officially sealed with the authority of the Roman Empire. No one was expected to enter, and certainly no one was expected to leave. Humanly speaking, it was impossible. Yet God's plans have never been limited by human power. Before sunrise on the third day, another violent earthquake shook the ground. An angel of the Lord descended from heaven and rolled the massive stone away. The guards who had confidently stood watch only moments earlier were overcome with fear. They collapsed to the ground like lifeless men. When several women arrived at the tomb carrying spices to honor Jesus' body, they expected to find a sealed grave. Instead, they found an empty tomb. The angel looked at them and said, "Do not be afraid. You are looking for Jesus, who was crucified. He is not here. He has risen, just as he said." Those simple words changed the course of history forever. Death had been defeated. The grave could not hold him. The stone had not been rolled away so Jesus could come out. He had already risen. The stone was moved so the world could look inside and see that the tomb was empty. Soon afterward, Jesus appeared alive to his followers. He spoke with them, ate with them, walked beside them, and showed them the wounds in his hands and his side. The frightened disciples who had hidden behind locked doors were transformed into fearless witnesses because they had seen the risen Christ with their own eyes. Looking back, every miracle after Jesus' death pointed to one incredible truth. The darkness revealed the weight of humanity's sin. The earthquake showed that creation itself responded to its creator. The torn veil opened the way for every believer to come directly to God. The Roman centurion proved that even the hardest heart could be changed. And the empty tomb declared that Jesus had conquered death forever. These events were never meant to be remembered as ancient history alone. They remind us that hope is stronger than despair, light is stronger than darkness, and life is stronger than death. The cross was not the end of Jesus' story. It was the beginning of a promise that continues to inspire millions of people around the world today. If you enjoyed this journey through one of the most powerful moments in biblical history, be sure to subscribe to Jesus Telltales so you don't miss our next story. And let us know you watched until the end by writing, "He is risen," in the comments below. We'll be back soon with another incredible story from the Bible. Until then, may God's peace be with you.